We're going to be performing external rotation, PAILs and rails in a 90-90 position. We're going to be specifically concentrating on the front leg to really focus on that external rotation. So the first thing, we need to make sure that we get in a proper position. So the proper position for this is going to be looking like this. We're going to make sure that our shin is perpendicular to our foot. And then what we want to do, we want to make sure that we find this bony prominence in your pelvis called anterior superior iliac spine. And then we draw a line straight to the knee, right? So we want to make sure that that bony prominence is in line with your knee. That's the first thing. For the back leg is a little bit less important. If you're very mobile, you can get into the 90-90 position, having exactly the same for this particular leg. If you are less flexible, then make sure that you bring this leg forward, because we want to focus on the front leg more so than anything else. If your knee is off the ground, okay, and you cannot get it close to the ground, what you can do is put something under the knee, like a yoga block or a pad or even a shoe, okay? So this is when we got into this initial position. The next thing is to create tension and to make sure that your torso is upright and the pelvis is in the proper position. A lot of times people end up sitting in this position kind of sagging to the side, which is incorrect because you're not actually going to feel the stretch. So we want to take this hand and push away from the ground to make sure that we're a little bit more upright and the hips are more squared up. And then the second thing we want to take your pelvis and we want to anteriorly rotate. So that bony prominence that I talked to you about earlier, you want to make sure that you tilt it forward, trying to bring it closer to your thigh. So now in this position, you'll feel way more tension in your hip and the back of your hip. So what you're doing, you're growing tall, you're rotating that pelvis forward, so tilting it forward, and you're pushing away from this side to create maximal amount of stretch. We're going to stay in this position for 2 minutes. While we're staying in 2 minutes in this position, we're going to concentrate on parasympathetic breathing, meaning we're going to inhale for 3 to 4 seconds and exhale for 6 to 8 seconds to make sure that we really get deep into that stretch and allow your muscles to relax. We want to get as deep as possible to make sure we get all the way to that capsule. Okay, after we finish the 2-minute stretch, you're actively driving that pelvis forward. You're always feeling in the back of your hip. We're going to go for the PAILs contraction. PAILs contraction is going to be you actively driving your foot and the knee down, creating maximum voluntary tension by yourself. So we're going to ramp it up. We're going to trap the air into the stomach, push both hands into the ground, create the tension in 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Really push down. So you're driving the knee down, you're driving the foot down, you're pushing that hip back, you're taking that bony prominence and rotating the pelvis forward. We stay there for 8 to 10 seconds. After 8 to 10 seconds, we want to do rails contraction, which is going to be you taking the foot and the knee and trying to bring it as close as possible to the chest. Don't focus on lifting the knee, focus on lifting the foot more and trying to rotate this towards your chest, which is almost impossible, okay? And then you're gonna squeeze all that tissue on the inside of your hip, which is your adductors, hip flexors, and you're gonna try to pull up as much as you can, rotating, really lifting. What's most likely gonna happen is your torso is gonna come forward because you're activating all that tissue, but the leg is not actually coming up. After 8 to 10 seconds, we just relax and stay in this position in a newly acquired range for another 20 to 40 seconds, kind of sinking in a little bit deeper. When we do that 40 seconds, or whatever you can tolerate, minimum 20 seconds, you're going to repeat for 2 more rounds, PAILs and rails, meaning driving the knee and the foot down first for 8 to 10 seconds, then lifting the knee and the foot for 8 to 10 seconds. And then in the end, you're just going to stay in the last position, just a deep stretch, somewhere around 30 seconds if you can go for longer, for a minute. And in that last stretch, you can kind of fool around. You can come a little bit forward, maybe rotate to the side, see different lines of tension to see where the tissue needs the most work. Okay, so once again, we're concentrating on the front leg, back of the hip. When you're gonna get up, most likely you're not gonna feel very comfortable because doing PAILs and rails is not a comfortable exercise. And you're working at the end ranges, which is quite challenging. So don't be upset if you're feeling a little bit sore right after. Just continue with it and see how you're progressing over time, because you'll gain way more mobility in your external rotation and you'll gain more strength and feel absolutely amazing. So I hope that helps, and stay fit.